Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC quarterback, Cody Kessler. Cody, we're back on a Sunday breaking down USC's 21-17 win over Nebraska in Lincoln. It was a chilly night, but the Trojans find a way to get it done. Wondering your thoughts 24 hours later.
Yeah, it was a mixed bag for me after the game emotionally. I was excited that we got the win, but obviously there's some things that this team needs to work on and improve going forward. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. To go to Lincoln, Nebraska in front of that crowd and that atmosphere on a blackout night, and the crowd was very loud. Obviously, I was at home, but I texted you guys throughout the game and you said this atmosphere is insane in all caps. And you could feel that through the television. But for this team to handle that on the road and get a win and then come back to LA, I was very proud of the way that they fought and overcame some of the adversity. Not anywhere near their best performance so far this season, but to still find a way to get the job done tells you a lot about the leadership on that football team. Look, I'll take an ugly win any day over a pretty loss. As long as you walk out of there with more points than the other team, that is a win. It shows on the record. We walk away, fix some things, and get ready for next week. So this team's 6-2. Everything they want is still ahead of them. Did they control their own destiny? Maybe not in the Big Ten. Some things need to happen. But if we want to talk about college football playoff and looking ahead, if they can win out and go 10-2, then I'm fairly confident that they can have a shot to maybe get into the college football playoff. Now you have a short week coming up. Take it one game at a time. Northwestern on a Friday after you just traveled almost across the country. So you've got to recover, be great with your prep this week, get everything going, and go take care of business Friday night in the Coliseum.
Alrighty, Cody, excited to dive into this one. Before we do, just a couple reminders per usual. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You can also watch the video version of this show on the USC Athletics YouTube channel. And be sure to look out for our socials, Victory Pod USC. That's where you can ask questions for our preview episodes, which is coming sooner than you realize. It is a Friday game this week. So if you're listening to this episode on a Monday, the tweet and the question box is probably already out. So pause the episode, go ask a question, and then come back and finish this episode. But that is your PSA. It is a quick week. We're going to get a quick recap episode out so we can survive not only this short week, but basketball season starting as well this week. It's a fun time at USC, but it's also an exhausting time. But that is what November is for. Alrighty, Cody, let's jump into USC's offensive performance. On the whole, Cody, what did you see overall?
Yeah, the first thing I noticed was it was a slow start for USC's offense. Lincoln Riley mentioned this after the game that they need to start a little bit better in that atmosphere, and that is important. You've got to be able to come out and you're playing against not only Nebraska, but you're playing against the fans as well. And it's a blackout and kind of everything you love about college football. When you're the road team, that makes it tough. Communication, pre-snap operation, all those things become a little bit more difficult. The best way to silence that crowd, especially if you're getting the ball first, is drive down, go 10 plays, 75 yards, and finish in the end zone. Unfortunately, USC had 2 3 and outs to start the game. That gets the crowd more involved on the first drive. The second play of that drive, they have a false start. That makes the crowd feel like they're responsible for that as well. So they're just going to get louder and louder, getting a third and manageable situation, but can't convert on the first one. And then Nebraska goes down and scores. And then we have another 3 and out on the second drive. That's tough. That's tough to put yourself already in that position to start the game. The defense gives up a long drive as well. You're just not in an ideal situation early on in that game. And now you have the crowd even more involved that they were at kickoff. So you got to be able to overcome that. And USC did in a way that they got into a slight rhythm after that. They go 11 plays, 74 yards on that third drive, get to a fourth and manageable situation down there by the goal line. It was fourth and goal, had a chance to go for it. We're on the field, and then we have another pre-snap penalty. A false start moves us back. Lincoln Riley then sends Ryan Sairi out there to kick a 24-yarder. We'll take the points in that situation. You have to, but would have loved to see what the call there was on fourth and goal and see if we could have got it and tried to tie the game up. And then the next drive, USC does a good job of going 10 plays, 53 yards, gets himself in field goal range, and then Sairi, who real quick I got to give some credit to, hits a 49-yarder. He has been great this year for
Incredible.
USC. I know we don't talk a lot about special teams on this podcast. We need to start doing a little bit more because Ryan
Yeah.
Sairi deserves some credit, man. He's really kept us in some of these football games, had some big time kicks and big time moments. A guy too that wasn't even supposed to start this year, but got thrown into the position because of injury. So I'm glad to see him perform the way he is right now. But then you go look at the second half. USC had a chance to go in, make some adjustments, and come out and start fast. Didn't do the same thing. They go out. Defense does a great job of getting a 3 and out, but the first play of the second half, Jaden Mayava throws a really bad, uncharacteristic interception. We'll break that down in a second and why he threw that. But then the next time they get the ball, they go turnover on downs on that second drive. Those are just two four drives really altogether. The first two of the first half, the first two of the second half, that's uncharacteristic of this USC offense. We have to be better in those situations. But after that, they bounced back in the second half, had scoring drives of 56 yards, 75 yards, and then ultimately took the lead. But going forward, they have to be better at starting the game fast. I know they will be because I've seen it before. But when you get in that type of atmosphere on the road, and USC has a tough road game in a couple weeks at Eugene, you can't have that type of start because the opponent's going to make you pay. So USC has to be better, overcoming some of those penalties, going out there, starting fast, and silencing the crowd early in these football games.
Well, taking a more detailed look, Cody, we always start with the quarterback. And I thought it was notable that Coach Riley was asked about Jaden Maava's play. And he said, you're just going to have days like this. It wasn't Jaden Maava's day. In that sense, Cody, what do you see there?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, and I'll be brutally honest about it. And that's, kind of what we like to do on this podcast is that was probably Jaden Maava's worst performance as a quarterback since he's been the starter here at USC. That's the negative, and that's the honest part about it. The other honest part about it and the positive is 14 found a way to stay in there and win that game. That not a lot of guys around the country can put up those type of numbers, can struggle like he did in front of that crowd on the road and still find a way to win the game. So that tells you a lot about the leadership and the mental side of things when it comes to Jaden Maava. And I was so proud of him for him to stick it out. I've been in those type of games. We've all been there as a quarterback. You're going to have those games where you're just off and you can't hit the guys that you normally hit and you can't make the throws you're used to making and you're making bad decisions and just feels like everything's against you and you can't get out of this funk, but you still have to find a way to win the game. And not a lot of guys can do that. So I was proud of the way that he bounced back. But again, just accuracy was an issue for me in this game. That's where he struggled the most. 9 of 23, 135 yards, one interception for a guy who has been so efficient throughout the year. It was just, uncharacteristic of him to have that type of performance. Started with his footwork for me, though. It just felt like he never got into a rhythm, never got comfortable in the pocket. Offensive line did a good job in protection, too. I can't put it on them. They did a good job in the run game. We'll talk about that in a second, but it just felt like he was off even when he had time to hitch up, step into his throws, missed a couple, home run opportunities down the sideline, had Tanuk Hines on a third down situation that could have been a touchdown, threw it behind him, then had another couple plays over the middle. Even that, the flea flicker to Jaden Richardson, which was a great catch by Jaden. I got to give him credit,
Yeah.
but Jaden had a step on the defender. If he puts it over the top, let him to the sideline. I'm not going to be mad at a completion, but there were just big plays to be made and some things that he left out there that I'm sure are going to bother him when he watches the film back. But I guarantee that he's going to get those fixed because we've seen him do it before. But overall, not his best performance, something that he needs to work on. But I have full faith he's going to get it corrected. Now, when it comes to that interception, that was the big no-no for me on the night. You can't do that to start the second half. You're not great field position. You're inside your own territory. That was a play that was a design run, really. It was an RPO, and he'd hit it a couple times, and I'll break it down real quick. But that was a decision to where he had multiple opportunities to not throw it. He could have handed it off, and then after he pulled it to throw the RPO and realized it wasn't there, he could have just dirted it, threw it away, or gone down, get a couple yards, get what you can, and get down. But we mentioned early in the preview that Nebraska runs a 3-3-5 defense. So when you have a 3-3-5 defense, you have three defensive linemen, three linebackers, and five defensive backs. Those corners are responsible for the outside run game. Since you only have three defensive linemen in the middle, you don't have defensive end or you don't really have edge defenders. Those corners, we call them trap or cut corners. They're going to sneak down and work downhill when they see you start to hand the ball off because they're responsible for that outside gap in the run game. We hit him a couple times early on to where we started to sell the run. The corners bit. We hit Makai Lemon on a little hole shot. We were hitting some guys on some of those hole shots to start the game. We actually hit Jacoby Lane on that very exact play early in the game. I guarantee you, Nebraska at halftime talked about it, said, hey, they know we're cutting at the corner position. They're trying to sell some of those RPOs and then throw the whole shot over our top. Make sure you just hesitate a little bit instead of going all out before you know he gives the ball. Again, that play goes. He starts to look like he wants to hand it, recognizes the corner starts to cut, almost baits him into it, falls back underneath. But the thing that I hated was that Maava had time after he said, okay, I didn't give it. I saw the corner bail back out. Gotcha. And this is the perfect example, Keely. I know I sound like a broken record, but I say the defense is going to win. You just can't compound the problem. It's okay. Don't make a bad play worse. That was the definition of making a bad play worse. They won, throw it over his head, get a couple yards, get down. But again, that's something that and I'm not gonna, I'm not too worried about that. That's a unique situation. He's been very good with his decision making overall, throughout the year. So I'm not going to hang too much, on that and focus on it too much. But that's something that he's got to get fixed going forward. Now, the most positive thing he did in this game, though, and the area that I was really proud of with Jaden Maava was that, okay, the game wasn't working for me when it came to throwing the football, but I'm a great athlete. Where else can I help this football team? That's with my legs. That's on the ground. We have been I would love to think that he watched the Victory podcast the last couple of weeks, because I have been pounding the table for Jaden Mayava to take off and run. Use your legs, you're a great athlete. Wayman Jordan's out, Eli Sanders is out. You've got Brian Jackson and you've got a young King Miller back there running the football. Help those guys out. You can be an athlete and pick up some yards. He did just that. It wasn't just in the zone read either. He did a good job when plays were breaking down to go pick up a first down with his legs, have some big time runs, and even scored on one of the run plays as well. So overall, wasn't his best performance, but at the end of the day, 14 found a way to get the job done and get the win. And that's all you can ask for from your quarterback in that atmosphere.
You alluded to it, Cody, but once again, we saw another face step up in USC's offensive line room. Alani Noah went down in the first quarter. Kalon Miller steps up, and Coach Riley praised him for that. And USC's run game was a bright spot despite that injury. What did you see on that front?
Yeah, the offensive line this year has been great, and that's a huge testament to Coach Hanson and the way that he prepares those guys. You could tell that he prepares his starters all the way down to the walk-ons, to the third or fourth stringers. He prepares them all the same way, and they're ready to get thrown into the fire and get put in different positions and still go out there and perform. Coach Hanson has been a huge bright spot this year for this USC coaching staff on the offensive line. It's been awesome to see. And then the other guy, like you just mentioned, that I've got to give credit to is Kalon Miller to be thrown into that atmosphere as a right guard in that position with that crowd noise and everything, and to step up for your football team as a redshirt freshman is unbelievable to do. But it runs in the family. Those Miller brothers, I mean, they are unbelievable right now for USC football. And for those of you who don't know, Kalon Miller, who came in at right guard, is the twin brother of King Miller, who's been the star running back for USC these last couple of weeks and was a star in this football game. So I'm so happy that those guys are Trojans. But starting with the offensive line, like you mentioned, overall, just a great job of having obnoxious communication, like we talk about on defense, making sure guys are in the right spot, doing the right thing, understanding the different pressure looks you were getting on third down, on obvious passing situations. Great communication too in the run game. I love the way we used our athleticism. If you watch the preview episode and the Trojan Tailgate show, I talked about when you get a 3-3 front, you're going to be able to get some double team blocks, but you're also going to be able to work up to the second level because there's only three defensive linemen you got to worry about. You got to go block those linebackers at the second level. That's what we love to do here under USC with the guard tackle pulling, blocking down, kicking out, and getting our tackles and our guards up to that linebacker area. They did a great job of being athletes in this game. They were working well in space. They broke down, had great feet, great base, extended with their hands. They got into the linebacker, got into the defensive line, and moved them around at will. That's why we ran the ball so well. And the other reason that we ran the ball so well, like I just mentioned, was the guy that deserves his crown, King Miller. He has been unbelievable, Keely. It's just been so cool to watch the way that he got thrown into the game against Michigan. Not a great performance against Notre Dame, but that's a dang good football team. He struggled a little bit in that game, just getting through the second level, and it's not all on him. It's there's two parts to that. It's the offensive line and the running back working together. Still had 70 plus yards, so did what he could. But overall, for him to come out after that game to play against Nebraska in this atmosphere on the road when the pass game isn't working, and we look at him and say, "Hey, King, you're a walk-on redshirt freshman, come save us. We need you to be the guy that puts the team on your back and goes and dominates this football game." And he did just that. That was unbelievable to watch. I went back and watched this tape again in this game and really broke it down. As a freshman, to have the vision and the patience and to allow plays to develop and understand where your cutback lanes are and understand where the kick out blocks are, to be able to do that with the not a ton of amount of reps that he's had so far this year is great to see. That just tells me too that he's been spending a lot of time with Wayman Jordan, because Wayman is really good at that. And that's someone that I know has taught him well. Eli Sanders also, everyone in that room. It's just been really cool to see King Miller get his opportunity and make some big time plays. And then the last thing I got to talk about in the run game before we move on, I got to give credit where credit is due. Lincoln Riley had an unbelievable game plan this week when it came to the run game. It was really good, showed a variety of different looks, and Nebraska could not figure out what was going to happen every single play. We used a lot of guard tackle pull combos. That's our bread and butter. Block down, get the guard and tackle on the backside, pull around, let Mayava read that backside defensive end, just put them in a bind, force them to have to play over the top of the linebacker. That gives King Miller multiple options when he gets up to the line of scrimmage. I love, too, that we used pistol formation this week, and then we had Lake McCree and Walker Lyons as kind of a fullback situation in the backfield next to Jaden Mayava. Gives you another thing to look at as a defense in a 3-3-5. Where are they going with the football? Is it play action? It gives you a two-way go as a running back. When you get either side of a quarterback, normally you're going from right to left or left to right. When you're in a pistol formation, for those of you who don't know, a pistol is when a quarterback's in shotgun and then the running back is 2 yards behind the quarterback. That gives them a two-way go. They can go right or left, and you never know what's going to happen. And then the other thing they did a good job of this game was we used some new formations out of 12 personnel. We had both tight ends off the ball in the backfield, again, almost like a hybrid type fullback situation, and just constantly had Nebraska guessing the entire game when it came to running the football. And that's why there were so many explosive plays on the ground. So shout out not only to the offensive line and King Miller, but Lincoln Riley putting together a great game plan when it came to the run game.
You noted in the preview podcast, Cody, that Nebraska had the number 2 passing defense in the nation. How did you see that show up in this game? Obviously, we didn't see the firepower from the Lane and Lemon duo that we usually see.
Yeah, we saw why this was the number 2 pass defense in the entire country. Now, like I mentioned, Jade Mayava could have been better in this football game, but that Nebraska defense under John Butler, who's their defensive coordinator, when they run that 3-3-5 defense, they're almost daring you to try to throw the football. When you have a 3-3-5, you have 7, almost 8 players every single time in coverage. It's tough to find some holes in that defense. It's tough to take shots over the top. There's just really nowhere to take advantage of that defense when it comes to throwing the football. Where you can take advantage is running the ball. And that's what we saw in this game. Was so proud of that offensive line, was so proud of King Miller making some big time plays on the ground, as well as Jade Mayava taking off and running. You could tell Mayava throughout the game understood, all right, I'm not finding holes in this defense. I'm struggling right now a little bit with my accuracy. I'm not in rhythm. I don't want to force it anymore. Let me just take off and run when the first or second option's not there instead of trying to run around. Also going to pull some of it on the zone reads. I love the way Lincoln Riley got some blockers out in front as well when Mayava pulled it. But let's not make a living off of that. And what I mean is going forward, we still have to be able to throw the football. We still want to be two-dimensional. But to go into this game without Eli Sanders, without Wayman Jordan, and be able to run for 200 yards and come out and find a way to win, I'll take that any day of the week. But again, use this week to get back on track. Short week, but we got to get back to being two-dimensional. I expect the pass game to get back to where we've seen it all year going into Friday.
Now, I never doubt your preview episodes, but when Mayava started to take off and it was obviously successful, I just saw the notes, Cody, where you said in the preview, Mayava be ready to run this week. And I was like, that man, Cody, he knows what he's watching on film. So that was great to see.
I said I wish maybe I should have been more loud. I said it the week before too against Notre Dame. I wish
You
we had
did.
done it a little bit more. But you know what? Sometimes it takes, a couple of those big time plays to say, okay, hey, I can do this. It's going to work. It's going to happen. Or it takes a game to where you're not throwing the ball great, because he threw the ball well against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But it takes a game as an athlete to where, okay, the pass game isn't working. How can I still help my team? I can take off and run. And why do you do that? Because he watched the victory pod, Keely. That's what he did. He put the victory pod
I'm
on the
sure he
plane
did.
on the
Yes.
way to Lincoln.
Yeah. Friday, he was like, you know what? Let's add this to the game plan.
Let's see what Keely and Cody are saying about this week's game.
Sure, for sure. On
I
that
love it.
note, Cody, any final thoughts on USC's offensive performance before we switch over to the defense?
No, again, was it pretty? Was it perfect? What was it their best performance? No, it was not. But at the end of the day, they found a way to win this football game. They eliminated some of those mistakes toward the end. They did just enough to put together 2 scoring drives to finish in the end zone. King Miller stepped up big time for this football team. Offensive line played well. I still have full faith in Jade Mayava getting back on track. But again, very proud of their performance. Wasn't pretty, but they found a way to get the job done. And all that matters is those W's in the win column.
Alrighty, Cody, I want to get over to USC's defensive performance. Before we do, just want to give a thanks to Audi. What you expect from an SUV is a range of sizes to fit your lifestyle. Expectations matter, but exceeding them matters more. The Audi family of SUVs, progress you can feel. And at Ralph's, you get high quality and low prices, so you never have to compromise your budget. Save on thousands of items throughout the store. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Alrighty, Cody, looking at this USC defense, I thought that they really played the role of steadying this game out. USC, like we mentioned, has a slow start on offense, but going after USC's second offensive drive, they have a 3-and-out, force Nebraska off the field, and I thought that really helped USC overall.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's exactly what the defense did in this game. Gave up some big time plays, and it wasn't perfect, but they really stepped up when they needed to. And in my opinion, the defense won this game for this football team. And I love what Jade Mayava said after the game, spoken like a true quarterback. When you struggle on the offensive side of the ball, you got to give credit where credit is due, and you got to praise your defense. And that's exactly what they did, because there's times this year where the offense had to come out and score a lot of points to win the game. There's going to be times when you struggle and the defense has to pick up the slack for you. That's exactly what happened. Like you mentioned, that first 3-and-out to really calm things down was great to see. But what really stood out for me was how they started in the second half, because Nebraska gets the ball to start the half. We get a 3-and-out on defense. Then USC gets the ball back. Mayava throws an interception on their own 34-yard line. And you're expecting in that situation, okay, it's at least 3 for Nebraska, but let's try to keep them from 6. That's your goal as a defense. But instead, We go out and get a sack fumble, get the ball back, get our own turnover, and get the ball to our offense. Offense goes 21 yards, puts a couple plays together, but then they get a turnover on downs, putting our defense in a bad sudden change situation again, where it really felt like that game could have started to get out of hand. And I know Raiola got injured on that sack fumble. We'll talk about that in a second, but they bring in their freshman quarterback. They're running the ball well. It's tough in those sudden change situations, but USC does a good job again on defense, getting a stop, forcing a field goal, and Nebraska ends up missing that field goal. It could have very easily, that situation, Keely, been a 28-6 game after the interception and then after the turnover on downs, but our defense buckled down and really kept the team in the game.
In our preview episode, Cody, you had Emmett Johnson, Nebraska's running back, as your red dot player, at least one of your red dot players. How did you see USC handle him in that regard?
Yeah, and you could see in this game why he was a red dot player. Emmett Johnson's a really good running back. He's one of the better backs, not only in the Big Ten, but in the entire country. And we saw that on Saturday. But with that being said, I was proud of how this team bounced back. We were very critical of this USC defense, really this USC front seven against Notre Dame when it came to stopping the run. They did a better job in this game. I don't want to say it was great. I don't want to say it was perfect. There's still room for improvement, but overall, I was proud of them, fighting through adversity for a team that ran the ball as much as they did. They were run heavy throughout this entire game. You're going to give up a couple run plays here and there. You're going to give up some, yardage here and there for how many times they ran the football. But overall, I thought we did a good job of buckling down and making the plays when we needed to. And again, they can continue to improve. But the things that I liked in this game was that we were a little bit more disciplined. We played a little bit more physical. Our linebackers were a lot more aggressive. They weren't waiting for the play to come to them, but instead they were playing downhill and getting in the backfield and making some of those plays at the line of scrimmage instead of catching the running back 3 or 4 yards down the field. Eric Gentry played better. He had 8 tackles. Seven Stevens had 10 tackles in this game. Can still be better. I would like to see more from them, be a little bit more aggressive, play on their side of the line of scrimmage more. And when I say that, I just mean get some penetration in the backfield, get some tackles for loss like we've seen so many times early on this season. We got to get back to playing that type or that style of defense with our front seven. Saw flashes of it, still not perfect, but we know that it's there and we know that they can get to that point. They just got to be a little more consistent. I thought we did a lot better job too of eliminating explosive plays in the run game. Against Notre Dame, we gave up a lot of big time plays. And when I talk about explosive plays, to Danton Lynn's criteria is runs for 10 or more yards. Against Notre Dame, we gave up 12 runs that were 10 or more yards. Against Nebraska last night, we only gave up 4. That is a huge improvement. I'm fine if they're going to hit a 5-yard run, a 6-yard run, a 3-yard run, a 7-yard run. You got to live and die by those sometimes when you play a team that's running the ball 35 plus times in a game. It's those 15, 20, 30, 40-yard runs that are backbreakers that you can't have happen. Those flip the entire field. Those put you in the red zone. They put you down by the goal line. Those lead to 6 points. If you can eliminate those and force a team to have to go the entirety of the field, then you give your defense more opportunities to make plays on the football. I thought we did a lot better job in that category. And then the last thing that we need to improve on right now and something that's kind of came back up a little bit these last couple of weeks. I just like to see us be a little bit more fundamentally sound when it comes to tackling. I thought we missed some tackles in this game where we had an opportunity to make the play in the backfield. A couple times where Gentry, Christian Pierce going downhill, had Emmett Johnson at the line of scrimmage. Some of our linebackers, Desmond Stevens, had a couple times where he could have had a 1 or 2 yard gain that turned into a 7 or 8 yard gain. So just got to clean that up a little bit. Something that this team can continue to work on. You got to finish the play. You do the hard work of being in the right spot, of doing your job, being in the right gap. Just finish it. Just make the tackle, drive through the front hip, take the legs out, whatever you need to do. Just make sure you get the running back down on the ground. We've got to be a little bit more consistent with our tackling. But overall, I thought the run defense, not where we want it to be yet. We still got to be more consistent, but they took a step in the right direction after that Notre Dame game going into Nebraska this week.
To your point, Cody, Coach Riley said the same thing about the tackling. He agreed with you on that point as well. When it comes to evaluating USC's secondary performance, how do you go about that given that, obviously the quarterback change happened and it didn't seem like Nebraska was as comfortable in his arm compared to Raiola? How do you evaluate the performance that we saw from USC secondary in that sense?
Yeah, it's been tough to really evaluate this secondary. The last 2 games, I mean, against Notre Dame, I thought we did a better job against CJ Carr and really shut down that passing attack for the most part, kept everything in front, didn't put a lot of pressure on our secondary because they ran the ball so well. So they really didn't need to throw it. And it was a bad weather game, but that was a confidence booster, at least for the DBs against Notre Dame, not giving up those big time plays like we'd seen early on this season. And then against Nebraska, I thought we did a decent job in the first half against Dylan Raiola, but we weren't stressed in the second half because he went out with an injury and they brought in that freshman quarterback who was a lot more of a runner than he was a thrower. But I will say this, I thought when Raiola was in there in the first half, we gave up some of those RPOs, some of those slide routes, a corner route that he threw. Raiola threw a really good ball against zone. That first touchdown, though, I thought was really good coverage by DeCarlos Nicholson. That was just a heck of a throw by Dylan Raiola. He threw a back shoulder against Nicholson. The receiver made a great catch, got a foot in bounds, and scored a touchdown. But for the most part, from what we saw, at least in the first half, wasn't great, but we did a good job of forcing them to have to make some contested catches. I thought Marcellus Williams has been getting better. We've been watching him in real time gain some confidence. And you got to understand, he's still a young player. He's getting thrown in the fire right now, and he's learning in real time how to play at this level. Carlos Nicholson has been solid all year long. He's been that go-to guy. I'm going to stick up for him a little bit. I don't know what was said. I don't know if you saw it, Keely, but he did have a crucial 15-yard penalty, a taunting call, as the ref called it, on the sideline. It looked like he did a quick little gesture to the sideline, but I don't know. That one was iffy for me if you
I
go back
didn't
and
see
watch the
it.
TV
No.
copy. Okay, so it was iffy for me. I know that'll get brought up. That's why I addressed it real quick. But overall, outside of that, he's been really good this year for someone that's had to step into that cornerback one role when we thought maybe we had some other guys, some transfer players, some other guys step up. Really, no one solidified that spot. DeCarlos Nicholson has stepped into that role and he's been playing some good football. Bishop Fitzgerald at the safety position, he's been a ball hawk. He's always around the football. He's really been a bright spot when it comes to the transfer guys this year. Christian Pierce has shown some of that physicality. And then obviously Kamari Ramsey is your do-it-all guy back there. So I got to show some love to that group. Again, the first half could have been a little bit better, but I thought they've done a good job these last couple of weeks of changing the narrative on them, of giving up some of those big time plays, of struggling to cover in the back, and really going back to the Michigan game as well. I thought they did good against Bryce Underwood, so I just need to keep seeing them improve. But overall, I've been proud of their performance. And then I have to address, obviously, like I mentioned a couple of times, what happened in that game. Dylan Raiola goes out, and let me start with this. I want to say that I speak for all Trojan fans when I say kid's a heck of a competitor. He's a leader. No, he gets a hard time maybe for the persona and the swag and the different things he does and the comparisons and all that. But that kid fights his tail off, man. He's a good football player. He's a good quarterback. He's a good leader for that program. That they've got a good future under Dylan Raiola. I know he's out for the season now with the leg injury. Hopefully he can get healthy this offseason, come back 100% next year. But I just want to give him a shout out. He's a good
Yeah.
football player.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I know the argument is okay. Well, if he stays in the game, does that change the outcome? Who knows? But it's football. Things are going to happen. We lost our two starting running backs, and we've got to find a way to get it done with the walk on and King Miller. They lose their quarterback. They got to bring in a freshman, and obviously it changes their offense. But you control what you can control, and as a defense, you only control how you play. It doesn't matter who's on the other side of the ball. You still have to execute, and USC did just that. And when Nebraska brought in their freshman quarterback, we did exactly what we're supposed to do on the defensive side of the ball. You make a freshman look like a freshman. He only had 7 passing yards. He struggled to throw the football. The secondary played well, got some pressure on him. Didn't give up a lot of plays on the run game. He tried to take off and get out of the pocket. We had good rush lanes, a discipline. We had good gap integrity. So I was proud of how this defense performed, even with the injury and all of that. And was it perfect? No. But overall, they're taking a step in the right direction after this game. Just got to clean up some of the things going forward. Northwestern is going to be a great test. And then obviously going against Oregon in a couple weeks is going to be the big one.
Alrighty, Cody. Any other thoughts on USC's defensive performance?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say as we wrap this up is I thought they did a better job coming back after that Notre Dame game, correcting some of the mistakes. Again, can still be better against the run, can continue to improve to get pressure on the quarterback. Secondary's been making some more plays, but overall, I think there's still more to be had on the defensive side of the ball. And I know Danton Lynn and the leaders on defense will tell you that, but this is the time to do it. This is November football, the last 4 games of the year. You're getting ready for postseason. Hopefully, get a chance at the college football playoff, maybe even a shot at the Big Ten championship. But this is where you get hot on both defense and offense. This is where it all comes together. The teams that finish the year strong, the teams that have a chance to play for a championship, whether it's conference or a national, those are the teams that really hit their stride this last, couple months, this last month and a half of the season going into the postseason. So I expect them to really turn it on this week against Northwestern and then finish strong. You got Iowa, you got Oregon, you got UCLA. Those are good opponents. UCLA's found something over there in Westwood. They're starting to play some good football. We know Oregon's going to be tough. Iowa's a dang good football team right now, too. So it's going to be a great challenge, but I feel confident that Danton Lynn and this defense will get things going. And then one more guy I got to give a shout out to before I wrap this up. Anthony Lucas had a big sack fumble. He's been playing some good football. I've talked about how high his ceiling is. I think he can really get there. He's just got to be more consistent. Cam Crawford, Braylon Shelby, other guys up front too are really helping him out and playing together well as a unit. Just got to be a little bit better in the run game and continue to get pressure on the quarterback. But overall, this was a step in the right direction for this defense. Just got to build off of that and get to their potential because I know it's there and I believe in them. I trust Stanton Lynn and that coaching staff. I'm just ready to start seeing it on a down-to-down basis and on a week-to-week basis.
Well, you kind of already brought us there, Cody, but I was going to say any final thoughts. So it's a weird week. Like I said at the top of the show, it's a quick turnaround. If you're a player in this regard, how do you just get your mind right and get ready for the next game so quickly?
No 24-hour rule, Keely. I always say 24-hour rule. It's what? How long was the flight? 4 hours? 5 hours, maybe.
It was weird because we were actually traveling during daylight savings time. So
Oh yeah,
I can't even tell you because my clock switched.
yeah.
So I was just like, okay, whatever. And
Okay.
I was asleep.
Well,
It was painful.
yeah, well, I'll say this: whether it not, there's no 24-hour rule when you have a Friday game. When you have a short
Yes.
week, it's maybe 4-hour rule.
The plane
Talk about the
ride.
film on the plane. Yeah, talk about the film on the plane. Maybe a quick little meeting in the morning, but you're already starting on prep for the next game, so you don't really get to watch this film back unless you do it on the plane. So lock in. I'm excited. Let's go. Friday Night Lights. I love it. If I'm a
Finally
player in
back
this
in the
game, you feel like
Coliseum too. It's
back in
been
the
a
collie. You
while.
feel like you're back in high school too. You're playing under the lights on Friday night, Southern California, LA, the place to be. What more do you want from USC football? So I'm excited. I will say too, go Dodgers. Let's go, baby. We got that World Series win. I talked about that on the preview episode. It's a great day, Keely, when the Dodgers win and when USC wins in the same day, and then the Angels are what? They're probably in Cancun right now drinking some Mai Tais on the beach.
Okay,
So
I don't need a shot.
next year's maybe their year. Shohei Ohtani didn't pitch great in this game, didn't have his best performance, but he stepped up when his team needed him to. But yeah, all jokes aside, for those you don't know, Keely's an Angels fan.
Yeah,
And
no, I
she's
was sitting on the
is
bus during the final out eating my dinner very sadly, just eating it while everyone was
yeah.
just, excited, screaming, so excited about their team. And that's when I tweeted, must be nice to be a Dodgers fan. Like, it's just your team doing well, back-to-back World Series. Couldn't be me. Don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what though, I needed, as soon as that night was over, I needed just a debrief because the stress from the SC game and then the stress from that World Series,
oh
I was
goodness.
on the edge of my couch the entire night. So
It was great baseball
it
though.
was
I
cool
will
they got
say
the
that.
job done.
Yeah.
It was. But either way, this football podcast, we're getting off track. Hey, fight on. If you're going to this game this week, I know it's tough, 6 p.m. Friday night. I know people are working. They have other things going on in LA. But if you're going to be there, let's be loud. Let's give this team the atmosphere they deserve. Let's have that 12th man experience for Northwestern when they get in there and show them what the Coliseum's all about. Love you guys. Fight on. Be ready for a quick turnaround. We got a preview episode coming soon.
Alrighty, you heard the man. That's going to wrap it up for tonight's recap episode. We'll see you pretty soon for a preview episode, so stay tuned. But that's Cody. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.